Good afternoon. Before we get into the meat of the discussion, I gather we have a short video.
Okay.
Control is under takeoff.
Release 3, 2, 1.
Performance is great.
And handling quality is good.
So Stuart, talk us through what we've seen there and why it matters.
Thank you, Dominic. That was a short video of Vertical Aerospace's first full-scale piloted flight out in public airspace in the UK. It was just a couple of weeks ago. It was a hugely emotional day for us at the company. A lot of tears were shed. The reason for that is it's such a moment, because when you're designing these cutting-edge products, the first time you put it out there, there is a bit of risk there, and it worked. It worked better than we ever could have anticipated, and it's the first step on us decarboning aviation and putting flying taxis in the air in the UK.
But that aircraft took off like a regular aircraft. That's not the full range of its capabilities.
No. So the background to these is, if you look across the world, the global megacities are getting hugely congested. I'm sure you see that in London. People have to travel in and out of London. But if you travel globally, you'll see that whether it's New York, São Paulo, Seoul, Tokyo, Mumbai, New Delhi, they just don't function anymore in terms of getting in and out and around in the cities. So there's a huge demand for a new way to travel. You can't build your way out of it in roads, there's no space. You can't tunnel your way out because of the cost and the time. So everyone's looking at the low altitude economy. And to make that work, we're trying to combine the best of a helicopter, so a very small footprint in terms of takeoff and landing, which makes it accessible, but it flies on the wing, which is incredibly efficient. And electric, so zero emissions.
There will be plenty of people, though, that say, we already have helicopters, we've had them for something like 80 years now, why not use those in place of it? Why do you need to develop an entirely new aircraft?
Yeah, great question. Helicopters have been around for a very long time. There's a couple of things that prohibit them from a legislative or regulatory point of view, but also from a societal point of view that stop them being in and around all the major cities. In fact, if you go back and you go onto Google Maps and look at LA from above, you can tell the age of the building, because the buildings from the 60s and 70s have helipads on them. So people, even back then, really wanted a fast way in and out of cities. But the helicopters got pushed out. First of all, extraordinarily expensive. They're highly complex, highly stressed mechanical systems. So if you own a helicopter, you can fly it at best half the year. The rest of the time, you're servicing it to make sure it doesn't fail. So tough to make money from if you're a business. Our products, they will have 1 minute of servicing per hour. So over the course of a year, you can fly it effectively all year. There's no highly stressed mechanical system because it's all electric. So the operator economics are fundamentally different. The other side is environmental. So for people that are living in cities, they hate helicopters. There's a big battle going on in Manhattan now over noise. This product, not just ours, but the industry has solved that. So these are near silent. So you can stand 20 meters away from it taking off and have a conversation at a natural voice. It's amazing. Helicopters are so noisy, ours is near silent. Second thing is, these are incredibly safe. So we're designing this to the same safety standard as a large passenger carrying jet. So the safest form of transport in the world. It's an incredible feat, incredible feat. And finally, zero emissions. So suddenly you've given regulators the permission to let this product in where helicopters can't solve the problem because of those issues.
And what kind of missions do you envisage them being used for? Is it solely to carry the ultra-wealthy from point A to point B, or is it broader than that?
I think the first thing to say is we're doing this with mass transport in mind. The goal here is a mass transport solution if you look 10 to 15 years down the line. Why do we think that? There are 50 plus megacities now. Society is moving all around the world into cities. They already can't cope. So the demand from regulators and society to find a new way to travel is huge. There is a staggering demand for this to happen. So that's probably the first thing to say. We think this will be mass transport. That is the goal of it. The cost per seat per kilometre, we've modelled out 1,200 routes with our customers, who are things like American Airlines, Japan Airlines, GOL in South America, Bristow, the helicopter user. The cost per seat per kilometre is £1.50, the same as a black cab. £1.50. $2, so the same as an Uber Black. So this puts it in the mass transport area when you look to the medium term. To get to that, our first launch cases will be if you fly with American, say, you fly into JFK, instead of standing in line for a couple of hours for customs and then a 2-hour journey in, you stay airside, you get on one of these, 3 other passengers with all your luggage, and you fly to Manhattan in 7 minutes. So you transform the customer experience for an airline. So that's the initial use case. And we've got customers on all 4 continents around the world, and that's the initial use case. So airport into central business district, and then back out.
But you mentioned Bristow amongst your customers, a very traditional helicopter operator.
Yes.
Clearly, they will have a very different mission set or in mind when they're taking delivery of the aircraft.
Yeah, as well as doing that, we'll launch with Bristow. It can go immediately into logistics, point-to-point, intra-city, emergency services, fast services within a city, whether it's delivery of doctors from hospital to hospital. The amount of time lost by doctors around the world moving from place to place where they're needed, or moving the equipment they need, whether that's blood, drugs, or hearts and lungs that need to be moved around. This provides an incredibly quick and safe way of doing it.
So it's not a replacement for an air ambulance. It's something else, something in addition.
It's something else, yeah. I mean, emergency services is something we're looking at as well. We see that as a huge opportunity, again, in the medium term.
And that's longer. I think your aircraft arrives in 2028, that's right?
That's correct.
So emergency services from end of the decade, something like that?
Yeah. As Dominic said, the aircraft will be certified in 2028. So I hope all of you will be flying on it end of 28, start of 29. This will be in service in the UK, in the US, across the world. So we're really on the cusp of this now.
And you mentioned the aircraft was all electric, but you've also recently gone for a hybrid powertrain on that as well as a different option. Is that a sign that you don't trust the batteries?
No. The electric version is the core product for the company. That's the foundation of the business and will be the first product we launch. What we saw was, so 18 months ago, we could see the world evolving from a geopolitical perspective, looking at dual use, so military. So actually, I signed off a hybrid investment. So this aircraft will take off and land silently, like a helicopter, take off and land vertically, in silent. And then once it's cruising, you can fire up a small gas turbine generator, and it takes the range from 100 miles to 1,000 miles. So you suddenly open up inter-city travel as well, which we feel is a fantastic opportunity. It opens up emergency services as well, where, again, they need the power to be able to do search and rescue, where you've got to have a longer range. So we felt that a hybrid was the right thing to do. We've had it on a bench working for 18 months, and we'll be flying the hybrid version of the aircraft next summer.
You've been investing a lot in batteries anyway to enable that range. How confident are you that you'll be able to get 4 passengers plus their luggage from a point to an airport?
Yeah, absolutely, very confident. We've been working on this for over 6 years. We've got incredibly close ties to a Taiwanese company that provides us with the cells. We know exactly the performance. In fact, we are the only company in the world that's bought the cells, 12,000 off them. We package them. We write the control software. We've written the safety software. We've done the safety packaging. So we've already passed a drop test. So we drop the battery pack to prove that it won't cause an explosion. And we've also exploded cells within it and show it won't propagate across. We're the only company in the world that's done that to the required safety standard, the equivalent. It's a 1 in a billion chance of having a failure. 1 in a billion. So this is the same as when you get on a large passenger jet. So we're really confident that the hardest part of the whole thing we've actually cracked.
And we talk about these flying taxis being on our doorstep. How close are we?
Yeah, as I said before, we're really close. The video that you showed is the third of 4 steps proving out the concept of the aircraft. We've already taken off and landed vertically. We've hovered at 30 knots. We then, from a safety perspective, did this flight. So you take off like a very short takeoff and landing aircraft. It flew beautifully. The next is just blending that together, where you take off vertically, accelerate onto the wing, fly around, and then land. So we'll be doing that later this year. After that, we'll start the build of our very first certifiable aircraft. So that'll be finished the end of next year. And then in 2028, these will be certified and delivered to the hands of our customers.
And do you also plan some demo flights this year?
We'd love to do some demo flights. Every flight we do in the UK is overseen by the Civil Aviation Authority. So to do the flight you saw on the video, we had to provide 20,000 documents to prove this was safe to fly over the public. So if you go on the internet and see our competitors flying around in the desert, that's entirely different. That's all at the company's risk. Because we're in the UK and we were flying over schools, villages, hospitals, it is all in public airspace. So we had to prove that this aircraft was safe to do that. So as long as we get the OK from the CAA, we'd love to do a demo later this year.
It'd be great to see. Clearly, you'll need somewhere for the VX4 to take off and land from. What does the infrastructure look like for the aircraft, both on the ground and to control it, if you like, in the air?
Yeah, so my background's automotive, so 20 years ago I was working on self-driving cars. Back then, just trying to get a car to self-park, the regulation was almost impossible because you're fighting against people that are walking in and out and around a car, children, animals, old people, cyclists, etc. It was a regulatory nightmare. If you look up into the skies, there's nothing there. It's actually extraordinarily simple to get aircraft up into the skies and keep them safe. So I'm working with Minister Kane as part of the UK government on the future of flight. The government are committed to having the regulation in place in 2028, and we've got similar bodies all around the world. So the regulation is moving at pace. And actually I did, in a former role, I did the first commercial drone delivery in the UK about 5 or 6 years ago. It was front page news, headlines on all the news shows. So I know we can do it with the right engagement with government. So I'm absolutely confident we can do that. Then if you look at the infrastructure, there's already 360 what we call vertiports. So places where these can take off and land. 360 already under construction. There's another 1,200 that are already in contract negotiations around the world. So capital is starting to flow into this, driven by the fact there's such a huge demand for the end product, for the actual aircraft to take off and land. So it's all kind of coming together after many years of this being a fantasy.
We've all seen big technology projects take longer than expected or not happen at all. We were meant to be in self-driving cars by now and aren't. What makes this moment different? And what makes your approach different? Yeah,
I mean, the self-driving cars is an interesting one. I was working on it 20 years ago. It is actually extraordinarily challenging to do that, and we're still not there. One of the reasons this will get there is, first of all, the demand that I've talked about, but just over the last 6 months, there's over $2 billion has flown into the number of companies. And if you go back 5 years, there are probably 50 companies trying to do this around the world. We're now down to a handful, of which vertical is one. There's literally a handful of companies that are still there doing this, and our concept works. So that's one reason I'm confident. There's been a shakeout in the industry. You had to have the right physics. We've proved we've got the right physics. You have to have the right access to funding. I raised $90 million in 2 weeks in January. So I know we can access the markets. I know we've got the right product. I know we're on the right track. We've got great support from our regulator. We've got great support from the government in the UK. So we can definitely make this happen. And we're on track to do so.
Excellent. You're working with some big partners as well, both from the technology side and that sort of traditional aerospace side. What are you learning from being at that point between the two different industries?
I think the first thing to learn is when you're trying to do a new sector, it's far better to be a startup. So I ran incumbents for years, trying to put your best people on a new product where you don't quite know when the time is going to be, that just doesn't work. So having a startup culture is the right way to do it. I can recruit the best people from all around the world. Our chief engineers from America, we've got people from North America, South America, Europe, Southeast Asia. You get the best people in the world. You have no distractions at all. So I don't have to worry about next quarter's earnings and hitting a target. Literally, all we have to do is put this aircraft in the air. So that's all we focus on. So that's the first thing to say. Being a startup is perfect. The model I have is to leverage the best of aerospace industry, but to do it quicker. So if we worked at the pace of Airbus or Boeing, we'd never get there. So we're working at a pace never seen before, but we're doing that by taking the best out of the aerospace industry. So 2 weeks ago, signed $1 billion contract with Honeywell to take them. They've been working with us for 6 years. Their flight control system is in the most expensive aircraft in the world, the F-35. That's what's in our aircraft. So we know it works. We don't have to develop it. We don't have to go and create thousands of software engineers. We take the best in the world, reprogram it for our aircraft, and you've suddenly got this fantastic flywheel with our focus, but taking the best of stuff that's already out there. So I think we're in a great place, and definitely being a startup helps.
Do you think both sectors can learn from each other, though? Can big aerospace learn from startup and vice versa?
We've definitely seen that. So when we get embedded people from Honeywell and other suppliers, they come and spend some time with us. They go back energized. It's a bit like when I was in automotive. We used to take the great engineers and put them on our racing program because suddenly there's this drive and acceleration. The feedback I get from our suppliers, Honeywell being one of them, is their engineers go back fully energized and engaged because this is fast, it's happening, there's a real drive to make this happen now and in the short term. So they definitely get a huge benefit. And interestingly, they are so desperate for this to survive, because if you're an incumbent in the aerospace sector and you're looking for growth, this is a huge growth opportunity. We're going to be building 700 to 1,000 of these a year by 2033, 2034. So huge growth for them.
You mentioned that there were other developers in the market as well. Is there room for more than just one or two? Repeating that duopoly we have with Airbus and Boeing. And does it matter if your aircraft is a year or so later than theirs?
So it definitely doesn't matter if we're a year or so later than anyone else. This market is so big. It is so big. There's room for, the way I look at it, aerospace has got a handful of players. Automotive's got about 50. We're going to be somewhere in between, but probably closer to aerospace. So somewhere between 7 to 10 is what I can see in the medium term. Interestingly, it's probably only 5 of us at the minute, 5 or 6. So I think we're really well placed to be one of the successful ones as we look forward.
Yeah. And a lot of those other developers are on the other side of the Atlantic. Can Europe, UK compete with the level of funding that they get and I suppose the technological expertise that they have?
Yeah, they've got great technology in moving fast and braking shit, but that's really not what you need to do.
That's the technical term, yeah.
With aircraft, right? This is putting people in the safest form of transport in the world. Right? So it's a different thing. There are 0 aircraft certified in Silicon Valley, 0. In my team alone, we've certified 30 aircraft or engines. And we're based in Bristol. It's the hub of aerospace in the UK. We've got global tier one suppliers all around us. The Concorde was built just down the road from us. In fact, we've got people who worked on it working for us. So we are really in a brilliant place, and I think we've got the right model and the right focus to do it.
And the right level of funding?
Yeah, we got funding through the end of the year. I said I'd go out and raise funds again this year. We'll be doing so sometime before October.
Perfect. We've now got some time for questions. If anyone wants to raise their hand, I think we should have a microphone somewhere, maybe. You might just have to shout. If you can say who you are and where you're from, that would be great.
Hi, I'm Dirk Singer from Simply Flying. I know a lot of your competitors, Archer and Joby and companies like that.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of the things you've said, so price of an Uber Black and replacing mass transit and et cetera, and they make the same claims. How are you going to mass produce the number of eVTOLs that you need? Because really you're going to need hundreds, if not thousands of them. You're going to need some kind of large-scale manufacturing facility. So what's your roadmap into getting that done?
Yeah. So I think the first thing to say is before you build anything complex like this, you've got to learn how to do it. So my background, I actually worked at Rolls-Royce, Bentley, lived in Munich and worked with BMW, and then lived all around the world with General Motors. So I understand both ends of that manufacturing build-up. The key to building something like this is to start slowly. So we're building the first one next year of our certifiable aircraft. The following year, we'll build 7 to 9. The year after that, between 35 and 50. The year after that, 100. So there's a good 3-year, 4-year period where you iron out the wrinkles of it. At that point, you can then look to automotive and say, okay, how can you ramp from that 100 a year to 700, 1,000? So this is not like Toyota building 1 million Camarais. It's nothing to do with that. This is much more akin to McLaren. McLaren build 3,000 to 5,000 cars a year. It's much more that size. McLaren, Rolls-Royce, Bentley. So there's a very clear roadmap to it, and I really want to do it in the UK to start with, building the batteries and the aircraft, and then we'll have a footprint in America and in Asia as well.
Well, you, and then we'll go to there. This chap at the front first. Sorry.
Hey folks, thanks for taking the question. I'm Carlos, I'm from the US, go South by Southwest Austin, very happy to be here also. Okay, so question about eVTOLs. Outside of the UK, thinking about your peer set, which geographies, which countries, and which companies in those countries would you say are farthest ahead? Who do you think is going to nail commercial eVTOL first?
I think the countries that are furthest ahead are the US, Japan, Korea, and the UK are probably furthest ahead in terms of ready to accept the products in there. I spent some time with senior Japanese politicians last summer. There is such a demand for this product if you look out to Asia. They're absolutely desperate for it. We've been talking very closely to the Korean team as well. They are desperate for these products because the cities don't work. I used to go to Seoul every month and you'd spend hours going from Incheon to downtown Seoul, and that was 15, 20 years ago. So I think they're well placed. I think, interestingly, in the UK, there is a real commitment from the government to make this happen. I mean, they've put 20 million behind getting the regulations sorted out in the next 2 to 3 years. So I'd love to see this flying first in the UK, but I think very soon after it will be America with American Airlines. Down the East Coast is very likely. Thank you for the question.
I'm being told we have no more time, so apologies if no one got their question in, but thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you.